So tell me this, what about that experience feeds you?
And what I would say feeds me about the experience, number one, it's so invigorating to build a tribe.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, we founded Sister Cities in 2012. I did a fellowship at New England Conservatory for classical musicians who were interested in social change programs. And when I finished that fellowship, Sister Cities was the idea that I had. And again, looking at research, listening to the community and saying, okay, this is the idea that I think could meet some of these needs around youth development programs, academic needs, social needs for kids, and ways that, kids need nets to carry them, right, so that they can, even outside of the school day, right? They need, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise children. So, but to meet other adults who were like, yeah, that's something that vision is something I want to get into. That's so empowering, and it builds this strong sense of camaraderie. I'm so thrilled. The core teachers, the lead conductors in my organization, we started a new professional learning initiative amongst ourselves to provide more peer feedback to each other, right, on our teaching. And we had the first session, and the first thing someone said was, I feel so honored that I have colleagues that I can share so generously with about my teaching, because oftentimes teachers don't want to share too much about what's happened behind the scenes. So we were watching the video of one of our colleagues teach. She said, I feel so honored. And I said, it's so interesting because we've been together now for almost 10 years. But that don't mean we had to, that doesn't mean that we would have to feel connected in that way and feel safe with each other. So that just having those kinds of relationships, modeling those for the young people that we work with, and really trying to make sure that they have the same kind of experience where they just, when they arrive at Sister Cities, they're like, this is a place where however I show up, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else, however I show up, I'll be accepted here. We don't allow each other to not accept each other. And so we're building and envisioning what the world could be like all the time. I like to think that if the girls that are part of Sister Cities just have, that 2 hours a week where they can just completely exhale and relax physically, that over time their bodies will start to crave that more in the world. And they'll start to then figure out ways. Spaces. Yeah, that's right. To push, to say, wait a minute. I want to feel this accepted everywhere I go. What do I need to do and change in the world to do that? What power do I need to get? So maybe that's what pushes me to finish school. Maybe that's what pushes me to work hard. But figuring that out. But I really strongly believe in the power of those kinds of spaces. And the fact that we make music together is just icing on the cake. Last year, I won the Kennedy Center Citizen Artist Award.
That was my next question, actually, because I was like, when are we going to talk about the Kennedy Center? How does that fit?
And that award is, I feel so honored to have been selected. You don't apply for that award. The Kennedy Center has their own process for how they find winners, and they have secret meetings with people in communities all across the country, which is really lovely. And I'm very honored to have that award, to be a part of the Kennedy Center in that way. However, it was an award not just for me, but it was an award for all of us, for the families, for of course the teaching team and the other staff, because we have support staff members, for the girls themselves who take these risks to show up. And COVID has only really amplified all of that for us. I have no idea why. And we asked the kids, but I still don't get it. Kids are showing up after a long week of virtual learning, which is very intense. Virtual learning is very intense. Even for our top earners, it's still hard. It's a lot of work. You know what I mean? And they show up on Saturday morning. Our earliest choir starts at 9:30. Kids show up 15 minutes before choir starts. The little doorbell starts ringing in the Zoom room. There's no grades. We're keeping attendance, but just so that we can follow up with kids if they're not there. There's no penalty for not showing up. Kids are showing up to interact with each other, to interact with us. to keep this community vibrant. We can't sing together. We do virtual performances where you sing alone and then we, get into
Record
the
it and
studio.
put it together and then play it.
100 hours on one, it's like 100 hours per video. We do that, but it's like the music is a part of our community, but it's not the only thing. We make the community, and us being there for each other and holding space for each other and seeing each other is, I think, the most important thing. And so I'm really happy that the community is continuing in COVID. We're ready for COVID to go, but it's exciting that kids still have a touchstone in the middle of a really trying time for all of us, that affirms them, that celebrates them, that lifts them up.
And strengthens their existing relationships. They're even more meaningful on another level, because this COVID has forced us to engage through space and, in time, because people record things and you still have to kind of connect asynchronously. And so I think you are just a special person. I'm so happy to have talked to you. I want to know, what is true north for you? What keeps you grounded and moving?
I'm going to use the word my mom uses all the time. My mom, there's three words that I associate with my mom, but two of them are about the same thing. And they're the word legacy and elevate. So for me, they're connected in this idea of I'm constantly thinking of how can I enter a space and change it for the better. And that's about leaving a legacy behind. So even a room, when I'm in a space, a meeting, it's like, well, what's the purpose of me being here? How can I bring some of the ways that I think about the world, which for me, it's all about, everyone's always nowadays, in the wake of Black Lives Matter statements from corporations and everyone's talking about the Black queer feminist lens. I'm like, well, that is exactly who I am. So when I show up in a space, I'm showing up thinking, I'm thinking about all the things I don't see in the room. I'm thinking about the power dynamics, how that's influencing the conversation. So I'm thinking about how to elevate, and elevate to me means bring more people in, hear from folks who we've intentionally marginalized. How do we stop doing that? And how do we elevate this work? And that's the legacy I want to leave behind. So I'm hoping, when people that I work with, young people or adults, I would hope that when they think of that what would Alysia Lee do? The answer is invite more people, make more space to hear more voices to be heard, put in intentionally infuse more structures so that there's a balancing of the power dynamic in a space. It's like, okay, how can we level this out before we even begin the conversation? I would hope that would be what people take away from the way that I practice, the way that I make art, and also the way that I choose to show up in administrative positions as well. I really try to use that as a hallmark of the way that I like to work. I've just started doing some composing. We are making an effort at Sister Cities, again, and this route in the creative process to really elevate the voices of our girls in new ways, which is by also, we've made a 2025 strategic plan goal that by 2025, half of all of our repertoire will be original works by the girls, the staff, or their families, every time we perform. So with that in mind, then I was like, okay, well, we have to lead by example. So I've started composing, and I'm really remarked recently about how even my composition process is one that's rooted in inclusivity. Okay, well, I'm writing a piece of music, but then how can the music, when the ensemble interacts with it, how can they bring their voices and elevate the piece, right? So it's still not about centering my voice. And that's, I think, something very strong for a singer to say, that they don't need to be centered in order for things to move forward. So their voice doesn't need to be centered in order for things to move forward. And in fact, centering me is delaying progress. So I hope people will take that away when they work with me.